During the wintertime, nothing warms the heart like something sweet and savory from Dewey's Bakery. This time of year, let our wonderful sponsors at Dewey's help you celebrate all those special moments, like football parties or Valentine's Day treats for that special someone in your life. Super Bowl-themed pull-apart cupcakes, heart-shaped cakes, whatever you can dream up, Dewey's can make it a reality. Just make sure you visit local.deweys.com, that's local.deweys.com, to place your order. Or visit any of their 3 Triad area locations immediately, in Winston-Salem at Thruway and Ronalda Manor, plus one in Greensboro at Friendly Shopping Center. So make this winter special for the ones you love and others with Dewey's Bakery, home of Free Cake Square Monday all year round. Dewey's, celebrate every day.
This is the Triad Podcast Network.
Hi, everyone. Our first 2026 real estate episode now dropping in your feed with our real estate expert, Blake Ginther from the Ginther Group in Winston-Salem. Blake, how are you, my friend? We ended 2025 with some predictions that you had for 2026. You predicted some growth, and by all indications, the start, at least for the first couple weeks of 2026, doesn't seem like there's anything that's happened that changes your mind in terms of what you foresee in this year.
Yeah, so far so good. So far, it's even better than I would have thought, honestly. And I thought we might have an earlier spring. You know, sometimes it's mid-March before we feel the spring, and sometimes it's Valentine's Day, and some years it's January. And honestly, it's starting off like it will be an earlier spring.
Yeah. Okay. What are you seeing specifically that it'll be? When you say earlier spring, you mean that the activity that we always see an increase in activity around springtime. That is one of the most, if not the most popular time of the year for people to buy and sell homes is springtime. But you're seeing that things are happening at a much faster rate and we're only in January?
Yeah. So I'll try to put this like in non-real estate terms. I think every job has this like, this foreshadowing of activities, right? Of like, this is going to equal that. And that's really like in ours, it would be, first of all, a lot more buyers, coming out of earlier than normal, than we've seen the last several years. So that's a good sign. But then also sellers, like we're meeting with more sellers in December and January to talk about and putting some on the market in December and January, which we haven't done in several years. So the activity, right, that isn't necessarily showing up per se in MLS with signs in the yard there's just more. There's more of it. So buyers can expect to see more inventory coming. We're still low, by the way. We're still lower than we like. Less than 3 months inventory in almost all price points.
Okay, that's good to hear. Are you noticing that as you meet with clients and you understand what their goals are for buying real estate, we talk about, okay, well, maybe their goal is just to buy or sell a home. It could be as simple as that. But when you guys meet with clients, you always ask them about very specific goals and wants and needs with their home. Where do you find some of the differences in what people want and need in 2026 than maybe you saw 3 to 5 years ago?
Yeah, well, it's been trending this way for like, honestly 10, 15 years where houses being built aren't like very like nice luxury houses that are being built. The average home like 15, 20 years ago would have been 3,500 square feet. Now it's probably 2,700, 2,800. So we are trending towards slightly smaller, smarter homes, and smarter use of square footage, I should say. So you're not sacrificing in the space where it matters most, but at the end of the day, that's how builders are able to build a house, and with their profits, not going down significantly because their expenses are going up as everybody's is, right? Yeah. So that's kind of what we've seen. And, look, Americans have bigger houses than most of the world. And I'm not even just talking about Texas style, just saying like in general. And if you've traveled across to other countries, you see that, right? Where our houses are significantly bigger than others. So I do think there's some European influence in that, but at the end of the day, it's a cost thing. And Most people don't want to sacrifice on condition right now. They want nice. Most people have budgets, very much have budgets right now. And their bedroom counts still are the same, but their overall, what has to give in that regard would be size.
Yeah. So, okay, maybe you can explain a little bit more what that means when you say what are examples of smarter use of square footage so that you can get what you want in 2,700 square feet versus 3,500 square feet.
Well, there was a time there in the 90s and the turn of the century where people were building these ginormous primary bedrooms, like huge primary bedrooms with these keeping rooms. In fact, my old house had this, and don't get me wrong, it's lovely, but we literally never used it, like ever. It just collected some sofas and my clothing occasionally, which drove my wife crazy. So, those things, those oversized bedrooms, especially primary bedroom, I think that's definitely going away. Honestly, it can be sometimes it's foyers, like these gone are the days of those ginormous kind of wasted space foyers, two-story foyers, where you might close that two-story foyer off now and have a bedroom upstairs, and close it a little bit to give better room for an office because home offices are still really important. So I just think that house designers have gotten smarter with really utilizing every inch of the home. You see very little wasted square footage in most plans today.
Do people also consider the fact that we are recording this on a very cold day in Winston-Salem and thinking it's a lot more expensive to heat a 3,000 plus square foot home?
I mean, yeah, it's funny if you are probably in your 50s or older, you probably at one point in time lived in a big house, and younger generations are moving away from the castles. They're moving away from the 5, 6, 7,000 square feet houses. Maybe it's economics with heating and cooling. Maybe it's just not wanting to clean that much. Choosing quality of life over home for sure. We're seeing a little bit of that, but in general, generationally, I've met with people, not to call out boomers, but I've met with a fair amount of baby boomers who have literal castles, and it's a hard thing to sell.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that resale on those big homes. That's not something that's going up.
There just aren't that many people who want 7,000 square foot bigger houses. There just aren't.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. And like you said, with newer construction, especially, that's just the sizes of homes that are being built are smaller. And some of it is what people need, but as also to your point, it's there are margins for them to think about. And if you build smaller homes, you're using fewer materials, and so you're spending less money, and you have to offset that with the cost of everything.
Even if a client of mine who built a dual household, a blended marriage, so there's like 6 kids. They built a 6 bedroom house and kept it under 4,000 square feet
Wow.
by design, by choice. So, that's kind of a case in point, right? Like they chose. I think they're in their 40s. Like they chose smart square footage, but needed a lot of bedrooms.
It's time to get serious about your financial future. It's never too early, but it could be too late to get started. And that's oftentimes the hardest part, getting started. How much do I save? Where do I invest? Do I save for college or retirement? How much for each? And who do I talk to about it all? Okay, we'll keep things simple for now and help you answer the last one. We recommend you begin with a local financial advisor, and that's Jennifer Johnson of Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. She'll sit down with you for a complimentary introductory consultation and go over all of your questions. Get started on the path to achieving your financial goals. Visit 3magnoliasfinancialadvisors.com or call 336-701-1600. Get comfortable with your financial future. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Retirement, financial planning, and investments.
Securities offered through Private Client Services, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors and Private Client Services are not affiliated. Private Client Services is under separate ownership from any other named entity.
All right. Well, we've arrived at the point in the podcast where Blake takes national headlines or things that are being said on a national scale and puts them into a maybe more focused local perspective to give you the real truth. We've done this with many, many headlines over the years. The last one on our episode was real estate has gone negative. What does that mean? Yeah, exactly. If you're confused by hearing that phrase, that's exactly what we were.
Yes.
When we talked about it last week. So what else is out there right now, Blake, that has you scratching your head and said, this isn't the full story here. Let's keep this in perspective.
And without offending, with no, I'll withhold as much judgment as possible. But the president has made a fair amount of, I keep saying tweets. I know it's no longer Twitter, X. What do you say? X's?
Oh, I still call it tweets.
Tweets. I mean, because what am I supposed to say? X's? Like that doesn't make sense. So he's
That's
posted on X. I guess
like,
that's too many
those are
words.
those are reserved for wives and girlfriends and boyfriends and
Yeah,
husbands.
exactly. It just
X's.
feels a little weird. But so yeah, he's put out a few tweets specifically about my industry, about real estate. And like at the end of the day, I think the intention is positive, is to give optimism towards real estate. I don't know if it accomplishes that, but I think that's the intent. And like one of them, for example, is he's going to buy back $200 billion worth of bonds to lower the rates to the low rates that they were once before. I made him too New Yorkie on that, but it was a terrible impression. And
That was bad.
it could be huge, huge. So I do think
Going to be the lowest that they've ever been.
ever. That's much better.
$200 million in bonds. We're buying them back. It's going to be terrific.
The best, the greatest. So look, at the end of the day, this is actually something he said in his tweet that it's not been done before. It's literally been done by every president. And it should be done by him. And he's going to do it, and it will help interest rates temporarily. So there's two things at play that interest rates, right? Federal Reserve, which we aren't going to talk about his stance on that. I think it's pretty widely known that he wants them to continue to lower faster than they are. And I don't think they will, and I don't think they can because of inflation. And then the other thing is the bonds, the security of the bonds. And so the government buying $200 billion worth of bonds will help lower probably a quarter of a point. And he's done it. And here we are in the fives. We're in the upper fives. I don't think there's much more that can be done. And I think that by and large, consumers have kind of turned the page with interest rates. Like we've been here for so long that I think that like realtors and developers and builders and like anyone in that world are the only ones whining about it. At this point in time, consumers have adjusted to it, and lowering your rate a quarter like literally moves your needle very little, right? Go on mortgagecalculator.org and enter what you think your potential home, if you were to purchase, what it would be, and put in 575 and 6, and like be prepared to be underwhelmed.
Yeah. If it's a 30-year mortgage, then
it's underwhelming.
Yeah.
It doesn't move the needle very much.
Yeah. Okay. So is that the goal of buying? Is the government doing this? Is the goal to get mortgage rates? I mean, how far down are they trying to get them?
Yeah, I mean, I think they would probably prefer them closer to 5 than 6. That probably will move the needle a little bit more than what it's been. But I mean, and obviously the hard part is nationally there are pockets, and I would imagine our president is probably strongly considering Florida, which is one of the bottom housing markets in the country. So, Florida, Texas, and Arizona have pockets that are not doing great because mostly overbuilding plus insurance issues. So I mean, here we are though in like the third fastest growing state and the third fastest growing location of the third fastest growing state. And yeah, we don't really need lower rates, candidly. Right. I mean, I started off by saying we're like having the best, couple months stretch that we've had since like right before COVID.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is why should somebody residing in the Triad of North Carolina pay attention to this? Does it actually affect somebody in our neck of the woods versus in some of those pockets that you were talking about earlier?
It's a dangerous thing because we could easily find ourselves in too low of an inventory again, which will make it just too hard. Like honestly, for buyers to find what they want, therefore to pull the trigger. And when buyers, if you don't move up, if you're in a home, right? I mean, Adam, in your situation, right? If you guys don't move up and you stay there, that's one less home that ever hits the market for somebody else. Part of that is development and building needs to continue. Side note, lenders in general are not lending like they used to builders. It's definitely been tighter and harder for builders to get financing. So there is going to continue to be less building. And I think the thing that people forget is like we're still a million homes short due to what happened, way back when.
Mm,
Hey, can I take a left turn on you real quick?
sure.
Um, Side note, this is just some fun math for anyone who's listening to this. If you're, not driving, just write this down. Um, '05, you bought a $200,000 house. And then the mortgage fraud craziness happened and a lot of people got foreclosed on and our housing market went to poo. And so your $200,000 house didn't probably get all the way down to 150, but it went down close-ish to 150. What's a fun game to play is pretty quickly, by the way, like by '07-ish, right? You all of a sudden you were underwater. A $200,000 house was like 160-ish. So playing that out over the stretch of if it had stayed at 4% equity increase, for the 20-year stretch of when you bought it and in '06, we'll say in '06 for easy math, that house would basically be worth double what it is. Compounding interest, right? At 4%. Everyone says, well, if you own stocks and bonds, you have $100,000 in stocks and bonds, you hope to double every, we'll call it 10 years at least, right? But we'll just say 10 years. Well, that's because that's at 8%. So it takes 50% gain every 10 years. So if you have a $200,000 house, it's now worth 300,000 in 10 years and in 16, and then another 50% increase is now worth another 150, so 450, right? And that's, by the way, probably pretty darn accurate to where it would sell today. Maybe a little less because of that dip that it happened in '06, '07, '08, '09. It might be a little bit below that. But what my point with all of this is to say it's not above that. So people think the housing market, has made housing quote unquote overpriced. The reality is it's made all of our other things too expensive. Really,
Yeah.
the housing market is probably exactly where it should be and would have been if we hadn't have had that basically mortgage fraud situation for several years, right? Back in '06, '07, '08. We're still probably a little bit below where we would have been without that. Even with the craziness that COVID brought us, that we've not been in for 3 years, by the way, right? That's so in the past. We're
Mhm.
back to 4% pretty much equity increase in a lot of markets, not across the country, but in a lot of markets and in our market. So I just wanted to like throw that out there long-windedly, and nobody likes doing math, but at the end of the day, houses aren't quote unquote what am I trying to say? Overinflated. They're probably a little bit below where they would have been had it not been for the big old recession of '08.
Yeah. And is it accurate? Is it accurate to say that your larger point in that is we don't need to do anything extreme here?
Yes. Thank you for tying it all into the point of this podcast, which is to say, yeah, I mean, we are in a very healthy market.
Yeah.
And if we get too low with interest rates and we get too many buyers there were so many that put themselves on the sidelines, 4 million sales a year is not enough for our country. We need to be closer to 5 million. And I do think we will be closer to 5 million this year than 4 million. But for 2 years in a row, we were darn near 4 million or even below it. That's not enough sales. So all of that to say is like, I think there will be more buyers. We don't really need to do anything at this point. It's healthy. Right. Let it ride.
Yeah. Let it keep doing that 4% year over year. Let's not do anything to keep raising something that's always been a staggering number that we've talked about in this podcast, which is the average age of first-time home buyers. Let's not do anything to continue to move that up, which is make it harder for them to buy.
I love making people upset because people are so passionate about politics, and I'm pretty apolitical, honestly. I really am. And the what I'll say is no manipulation is needed here. Like, please, no manipulation. Let natural course ride.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you on that, my friend. Okay, really good stuff. This is a time with spring arriving maybe earlier than we thought from a real estate perspective, not from a weather perspective. It's still extremely cold outside. Now's a great time to talk to Blake and the team at the Ginther Group. So how can they do so, my friend?
336-283-8689, 283-8689. Or if you're just not sure, Google us at theginthergroup.com.
Very easy. Theginthergroup.com. It couldn't be easier to find them. It's also in our show notes if you've got the opportunity to go ahead and check them out on your phone. So, Blake, appreciate it, my friend. Stay warm, and we'll catch up again soon.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode on the Triad Podcast Network. Our mission is simple: provide information, advice, and stories about the people and places that make the North Carolina Triad such a great place to be. You can find us by searching Triad Podcast Network on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much wherever you like to listen. If you like what you heard and want to support the show and those that contribute, we would truly appreciate a rating and review on your favorite podcast app. It helps spread the word along, as do your shares on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Triad Podcast. To get in touch with us, simply email info@triadpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.
This is the Triad Podcast Network.